So this last week has been basically an unplanned deload for me. I don't generally deload. If you guys know anything about how I train, I don't deload. I try to aim for, not essentially overreaching too much. I go on auto regulation. I try to just do a bit every day, and I try not to take, I guess too much debt out that I have to repay in the form of a deload week. But this has been an unplanned deload because I'm sick, right? So this week has been very much an, sub-maximal training week. But like with anything, you can get positives out of any situation. And the positives that I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting out of this situation is that, when you're not spending most of your energy thinking about training and how to, break plateaus and, how to correct your technique, you get to basically watch from the sidelines in a way and learn from a different perspective. Kind of like, if you guys have watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, when he got injured early on in his career, he spent a bunch of time off with his broken foot. And he said that it was really good for him to see the game from a different perspective because, in high school and college, it was all go, 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 go. He didn't really have any, substantial time just watching from the sidelines. And I've also, heard about, and I'm sure you guys have as well, of athletes talk about the same thing where you kind of, look at your sport from a coaching aspect rather than, while you're in the game, because you can definitely learn a lot more or a lot different type of stuff when you change the perspective. So from my point of view, it's kind of the same thing. Last week, all I've done is basically lounged around the house, try to recover, eat a lot of food as much as I can, although my appetite is kind of down, but just trying to get recovery. And then the other thing I've been doing is just doing a whole lot of video watching on YouTube and reading and just kind of, doing what I love to do, and that's talk about, strength and learn about strength. The one thing that popped into my mind was, is actually because of Eric Bugenhagen. I think that's how you say it, Boogs. He's a YouTuber. He's got 100,000 subscribers. I'm actually surprised that he doesn't have more because the guy's a beast. He's somebody that I used to watch heaps back in the day, but I kind of haven't seen any of his videos pop up on my feed for whatever reason. Like the YouTube algorithm is just strange. Like if you might be subscribed, but if you don't watch the content, then the algorithm doesn't recommend it for you anymore. So like he's been off my, homepage for a while. And anyway, because I've been, watching so much, one of his videos popped up, and I watched it. And basically the topic of the video was, it wasn't a training video. It was just him kind of talking like I am now, and he was talking about, this idea about specializing in a given lift rather than having the holistic approach to strength. He said, and I kind of agree with this. He said, like a lot of beginner programs, a lot of intermediate programs, have you basically just, apply the same amount of energy to every lift and just, go for minimal gains for every lift. And then, you kind of get slowly better in all the lifts. But he said that the better approach is to specialize in one lift. Pick a move that appeals to you. Perhaps that you're a lift that you're, naturally good at, and just smash it as hard as you can and try and get as fast as gains as possible. So he said that was his approach. And the reason for that is that if you want to stand out of the crowd, you need to have something shine. And if you're doing like everyone and just going for very small increases on all of your lifts, you're going to basically be part of the crowd. If you become a specialist, all of a sudden you become more recognized and people start paying attention to you if that's your thing. But from a strength point of view, I'm thinking, okay, if your deadlift goes up really, really quickly in a short period of time because all you've been doing is focusing on the deadlift, I can't see a situation where your squat gets worse. Same like if the other way around, like if your squat gets stupidly good, if your deadlift gets stupidly good, your squat is not gonna deteriorate because this is what I'm thinking. If you go down in the hole and you squat and you don't have the leg strength, you're gonna end up good morning that shit anyway. And so your squat numbers are gonna be decent as well, but the actual technique of it is gonna be off because you're basically utilizing the strong points of your body and you're trying to, circumvent around the weaker part of your bodies, which in this case is the legs. If you go the other way around with the deadlift, same thing. Somebody that has a really, really strong squat who's going to have a really, really strong pull off the floor, the guy might get in trouble around the knee kind of thing, but you're gonna have a respectable base to work off. You know, after a set given time, you can always work on some of the weaknesses that you've kind of gotten from, you know, specializing in one move. But the whole thing popped in my head, and I thought to myself, why don't more people have that approach? Everyone seems to be going for that incremental, holistic approach to training. And we're all kind of stuck in the same thing. Like, you know, I've been squatting, you know, almost 6 months now, which is a long time. And during this time, I was kind of like tippy-toeing for the first section because I didn't want to overtrain. I didn't want to neglect the deadlift. I went through stages during these 6 months. It wasn't just all-out squatting. Even though the program is squat every day, you know, it wasn't balls out squat every day and just going at all costs. I always kind of felt, you know, back of my mind, look, I want to concentrate on the bench press as well, and I want to do a bit of deadlifting, and now I'm doing push-ups and I'm doing pull-ups, and the thing popped into my head thinking, you know, I'm thinking to myself, am I doing too much right now? Like, have I put too much on my plate? And the result of that is going to be that I'm not really getting good at anything all that quickly. If you said to me, what would you rather do? Would you rather put on, I don't know, 20 pounds on every lift? Or would you have, you know, all the lifts stay the same, but you put on 100 or even more pounds on the deadlift or the squat? I don't know, but like right now I'm saying I'd rather want to, you know, put that big specialized movement. I'd rather take the 100 pounds. It'll be interesting what you guys have to say about that. Obviously, the first thing that comes into my mind is imbalances. Somebody that's really good at deadlifting and really shitty at squatting tells me that they have really good hamstring, glute, and lower back, but they lack the quad. Somebody that's really good at the squat and not the deadlift, they might have really strong quads, but they have weak hamstrings. Obviously, if we were to take that person that's imbalanced and put them on the sporting field, football, basketball, or whatever, the chances of injuries go through the roof, right? Because somebody that's squat dominant, we know, has a high chance of suffering from ACL injuries because the hamstring is generally stabilizing the knee from the other side. So, you know, there's a lot to consider here. If you're building a overall athlete, you know, for longevity and for, you know, just general strength and general improvement, obviously the holistic approach is better. But if you want to make a name for yourself and you want to get recognized, and you want to get noticed, and you want to make a name for yourself, like I'm the deadlift guy, or I'm the deadlift doctor, I'm the squat doctor, or whatever the case might be, you know, you'll be hard pressed to find somebody that has freaking amazing lifts all around. Like even in my subscribers, there's some of you guys who are just phenomenal at deadlifting and not so much in squatting. Some of you guys are incredible bench beasts, but you can't squat all that good. So that's okay. Like, I think it's good to specialize in a skill. I'm thinking of a sporting field, and I don't know if you guys watch international football, like soccer. The first thing that just popped into my mind was David Beckham. Do you remember David Beckham? Like, the guy was phenomenal. He was a sniper. He could pick out a pass, a long ball. He was a free kick expert. He was a, you know, stoppage play expert. His curve was amazing, but he wasn't an athlete. Like, he wasn't somebody that could defensively stop you. He wasn't somebody that was, you know, a really good goal scorer, like, you know, from free play. He wasn't somebody that was just an all-round beast, even though he played in midfield and a bit on kind of on the wing or whatever he did. And there's a lot of guys like Dennis Rodman. You know, what do you say about him? The guy could not play the game of basketball, really. Like, he couldn't shoot, he couldn't dribble, he couldn't pass all that well. But he's probably the best rebounder of all time. And so we remember the guys like that, the specialists. We remember these people make a name for themselves because they're like the best at their thing. And then eventually, you know, you bump into guys and you learn about guys kind of like Michael Jordan, who are like MVPs a million times, defensive players a million times. They've won a million championships, and they're really good passers. They're just all around gods. But that is you know, you need ingredients for that other than, you know, work hard. Like, you know, there's a lot of natural ability there. Jordan was gifted with freak athleticism, and then, you know, he put a whole lot of work into it and his mentality of a champion, and that kind of makes that possible. But for most of us, like, if you've been lifting for 5 years and you're not doing anything spectacular, the chances are you just probably have general, you know, average genetics. And for those type of people, I would recommend you to actually think about specializing in a certain lift. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is to do like a general program like everyone does and just be part of the crowd. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you rather be a specialist, or would you just be somebody that's kind of good at overall but doesn't really make the front page of the newspaper? There's also like all these players pop into my head from basketball perspective, like guys who are just simply there to do one thing and one thing only. Guys who are just really good at shooting, guys who are really good at rebounding, defensive stoppers, shot blockers, guys who are little but they can like read the play and they can pass really well. Yeah, there's like all of these things coming into my head. The guys who have several abilities and who are specialists in several abilities, now these guys end up being superstars. But I think we should all kind of aim for, in terms of strength gain, having one lift that we're just freaking amazing at. Because that one lift can then pull all the other lifts along with you. Because if you end up squatting 700 pounds and you're this deadlifting god, I think somebody like that is going to have an easier time increasing their squat than somebody who perhaps has a 500-pound deadlift and they're trying to increase their squat as well. Because there's a foundation there, there's a posterior chain there, and all you got to do at that point is kind of add a bit more quads, some hypertrophy to the quads, and all of a sudden, you become a beast, in the squat as well. But if you're, shitty at the squat, shitty at the deadlift, shitty at the bench, and you're slowly trying to increase all of them, I feel like it's going to be a struggle because you don't have a body part that's amazing in anything. You just kind of average at everything. So would you rather be average on most things or below average on most things and then have one amazing thing? Or would you just do the average thing? I don't know. From my point of view, I think Dennis Rodman is cool. I think a lot of these guys who had special, like David Beckham, I brought him up as well. I think he's really cool. I don't know. That's what kind of got me thinking after watching Eric Bugenhagen. I always mess his name up. I thought it was a really provocative video. And yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that. Obviously, you guys know that I love the squat. I've loved the squat, from a long time ago. It just appeals to me much more than any other lift, and it comes to me more naturally than any other lift. So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting to see what you guys have to say about this topic as well, because, obviously being Michael Jordan is going to be the best case scenario, but, chances are if you've been lifting for 5 years and you're not above average, the chances are you're not going to be Michael Jordan, unless you have a really weird trajectory of training. So for most of us who are not Michael Jordan gifted, I think if you want to make the NBA, if we're using that analogy, become a Steve Kerr, become that guy who can just shoot the shot really well, become the Dennis Rodman who's going to not be out-rebounded by anybody, become, Mutombo, who's really good at blocking shots. I don't know, what other sports, Andy Roddick, tennis, he's a serve god. Like even Djokovic, like I'm getting out of my depth here, and my friend George will probably call me as soon as he sees this video. But Djokovic's number one, talent is defense. He's just phenomenal at turning defense into offense. So I feel like that's his specialty, defense. And then he kind of worked on all the other things and kind of got, all right at serves, and all of a sudden he's really good at serving as well, and all that kind of thing. So I think becoming a specialist is good. And it will get you attention, and you'll get you into the big leagues. And then from then on, you can kind of work on your weaknesses. I think that's a better approach in my mind now. If I do a bit more thinking about it, I might change. But right now, I'm thinking it's probably a better approach in terms of getting better overall than just doing everything incrementally. I don't know. Anyway. So today I am still in my rut. I'm still in my deload. So I'm going to do a very minimal squat session, as you guys have seen in the last few days. So basically squat up to 100 on front squat, and then quickly get in the house and warm up. It's a cold day. It's gloomy, and I want to get in the house real quick. So a bit of a different view today. That's the other thing. I'm trying to bring you guys different views of the squat. Not that you guys haven't seen me squat, you know, that's all I've been doing for, 6 months. But yeah, let's get a bit warmed up. Now, the thing that comes into my mind right away, I've already mentioned it, is say you forgot completely about deadlifting and all you did was squatting, and you're doing high bar squatting or front bar squatting, kind of like what I'm doing. And all you're thinking about is increasing the squat. I want to get my squat to 250 kilos. Say you're not deadlifting for a whole year. What does that body look like? The hamstring's obviously not going to get a lot of attention. Your glutes and your quads are going to be really, really strong. Obviously, muscle imbalances will form and potentially injuries will form. So, in thinking about becoming a specialist, you would need to become a specialist in such a way that you don't bring about huge muscle imbalances and predispose yourself to injury. So still, you can't just omit complete movement patterns. Like, I'm not going to hip hinge at all for the next 1 year, and I'm just going to do a lot of deep squatting and I'll see how I go. That's probably not the smartest idea in terms of longevity and injury prevention. But if you could somehow do just squatting and take care of your hamstrings in such a way that, you know, they're not completely being neglected, but you're not having to deadlift and cause yourself that extra, you know, major fatigue, because we all know deadlifting is very stressful on the CNS and metabolically and whatever, you know, that would be probably a better approach. But completely omitting a movement pattern like the hip hinge is probably not a good idea. You need to have a balanced sort of biomechanically sound body. I have seen countless and countless people. Some of you guys are actually my subscribers, and I've subscribed to your channels and things, and I've seen some of you guys who are thin, lanky, and can pull 600 like nothing. And I'm looking at some of you guys and I'm like, man, you have no hamstring, you have no quads, you have no major upper body. What the hell is pulling that weight? It's just your natural ability. You know, you don't have that size, but that's really your thing. So imagine if you just, guys, all you did was just concentrate on that move and just made that move as strong as possible, and you got to like 700-800 pound deadlift, and you look like that. To me, that is intriguing. That is really interesting. I would want to watch you. I'd want to study you. I'd want to really get around you, because how does a guy like that pull so much weight? You know, that's interesting. But if you just stayed on 600 pounds and you try focusing on some of your weaknesses like your bench press and your squat and whatever, and now all of a sudden you get to a stage where you're, you know, deadlifting 600, squatting 500 and benching 400, yeah, that's impressive. No doubt, like, you're a freaking elite level. It depends on your body weight, obviously. but you're not as interesting as somebody that would have like a super like elite, world class lift. Like if you were to pull 700 or 800 freaking pounds and you were this slim, thin guy. That to me is remarkable, because all of a sudden you are a specialist and you command attention and your words mean something. Your words have weight. So when somebody's talking about the deadlift and you stand up and you start talking about deadlift, the whole room will go quiet, because you're a fucking professor of the deadlift, man. You know how to deadlift. If you're still pulling 600 and you stand up and man, you're part of like so many other people who are just pulling 600. You're not that interesting. So I think there's a lot of benefits to becoming a specialist. I'm somebody that's not specialized in anything. I'm just average in all lifts. I have my, favorite move, which is the squat, and I'm working on it. And I hope to be a specialist in the squat someday, but I'm not there yet at all. But I'm kind of like thinking to myself, it's probably not a bad idea just to focus on the squat and not worry about the deadlift and not worry about the good morning stuff, and not really just smash the squat, get to my 200 kilo squat and continue. Maybe I can find a secret sauce there and work out a plan that can really get me there. And not worry about push-ups, don't worry about pull-ups. Just freaking squat and to put all my effort, put all of my recovery, put all my eggs in one basket and become a freaking beast in squatting. And so that's like my resume. That's my MD. That's my doctorate. The squatting is my doctorate. Yeah, sure, I will, do my business with the bench press, and I'll do my business with the deadlift. But I'm the squat. When there's a discussion about the squat, you can come to me and we can talk about the squat, and my words will have weight. So that's also crossing my mind right now, and just completely, because at the end of the day, man, like it's all about the goals that you have. If you're thinking about going to a powerlifting meet, yeah, absolutely. A holistic training plan is probably the best in terms of your total. In terms of your total, that's, doing all the lifts is going to get you the most points, because it's all about cumulative weight. So if that's your goal, you want to become a powerlifter and go to competitions, by all means, don't listen to any of this specializing bullshit. But if you're not that thing, you're not about powerlifting, and you just want to, just training because you love training and you love getting stronger, then why not consider becoming a specialist? I actually said to my brother the other day, it's actually quite some time ago now, probably a couple of months. We went to the gym together, and he's somebody that plays soccer. He's quite fit. He plays soccer once a week and whatever, and trains around that, goes jogging and whatever. And we started talking about weights and things, and so he went to the gym and we jumped on the treadmill, and so he jumped on the treadmill. I didn't jump on the treadmill. That's not my thing anymore. I used to be all about running back in the day when I was playing basketball. But anyway, he jumped on the treadmill. He spent like an hour running, man, right? And I was, doing my squats and my deadlifts. And by the time I got to my bench press, he kind of finished his treadmill, and he came over to me and he was like, "Oh, let's do some benching." And I'm like, "Man, fuck, you're not gonna have anything left, man. Like, it's probably a bad idea to do that. Just now talk about doing bench pressing and some squatting and whatever. Like, you don't have anything in your tank." And then that's when I said to him, "Look, I know your, soccer is the most important thing. That's why you actually train. That's why you go to the gym, to get better at soccer." But I said to him, "Man, if I were you, I would just pick the bench press, say, and don't worry about the deadlift and the squat, because that's not really going to help you on the soccer pitch in terms of, you don't want to get too bulky, obviously." And I just said, "Look, just all you need to do is just do the bench press. Just do the bench press and get really good at the bench press, and then you have your soccer, stuff going on at the same time." Because if he was to jump on the treadmill, do bench pressing, do squatting, do all these different things that I just kind of went through in the hour that he was doing the treadmill, he's not going to have anything left, and he's not going to prove of anything really, because it's too much. He's spreading himself too thin. Not enough butter on that piece of bread. And so he was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And I said, "Look, you like doing the bench press. There's a minimum amount of injury risk with the bench press. With the squat, I would need to watch you. With the deadlift, I need to watch you. With the bench press, like you're already, like most people are naturals at the bench press. Of course, you need some pointers and whatever." Anyway, so we started chatting about becoming a specialist back then, and then it's reignited by Eric's video. I just think it's an easier approach. But if you're into powerlifting, obviously it's not the best idea, because your total number is not going to be the best, But yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Let me guys know what you guys think. But let me hit this 80 kilo squat, even though it sucks that I can't really go hard here. But anyway, I'm doing something. Some of you guys already know that I work in the hospital as a nurse, and the reason why I say that is I'm thinking about the medical world, the professional world. You know, you have a cardiologist, you have a urologist, you have a gastroenterologist, you know, you have a cardiothoracic surgeon, you know, radiologist, interventionists. You have in cardiology somebody that specializes on the electrical current, on the electrical part of the heart, electrophysiologist. Then you have a, you know, cardiology interventionist over here who does angios. You have nursing as well, specialists in ED, in surgery, in theatre. You have anesthetics, like all these different fields. When you are a jack of all trades and a master of none, you don't really, like, you're revered, but you're not going to hold a room silent when you're speaking. When a cardiologist walks in and somebody's having a heart attack, and they grab the ECG and they know what's going on, they know the story, they're talking to the patient, they're looking at the ECG, we're all sitting there and we're looking at what they're going to think and what they're going to say, because it's their decision to make whether they're going to go to the angio suite or what we're going to do with them. So that's weight to their words. This man is a specialist of cardiology. This patient is going to be cared for by his decisions. So there's specialties in every field. You know, even like lawyers, you have criminal law, you have corporate law, you have all these different types of specialists. That's the way of the world. So in the strength game, why are we always kind of looking for the jack of all trades solution? Because a lot of these things I feel like bring us suboptimal results because the grind is so slow. You know, how enthusiastic would you feel if you put on 100 freaking pounds on your deadlift in the next 12 months? Or in the next 6 months? How amazing would that be? You will feel more enthused, you would want to train harder, blah, blah, blah. But when you're kind of grinding out weights and it takes you so long to put on a freaking 5 to 10 kilos, and it's just a slow grind, like you don't have the same drive because you're not really getting anywhere. Like you're getting places slowly, but no one's really saying, fuck, Ivan, man, you can squat that shit, man. Ass to grass, incredible. You know, I don't know. It's just food for thought. It's food for thought because it'll be interesting what you guys have to say. But wherever I look, you know, we all kind of, we want to take our car to the specialist Subaru guy, Subaru mechanic, Mitsubishi mechanic. Oh, this guy is really good with the Japanese cars. This guy's really good with muscle cars. This guy is the shit with turbo cars. Like you want to have these people in your life because you feel like they are masters at that. I don't want to take my turbo car to somebody that's really good at everything. You know, he can do a muscle car, he can do a Jap car, he can do Euro cars, he can do everything. Nah, man, I want the guy who's just solely his whole life is turbo cars. That's all he wants to do. He's just even better like this. So I've got an Evo. I've got to go a guy, you know, Mike Dale. I can't believe I said his name. But yeah, I live in Adelaide. He's like the specialist of Evos. So I take my car there. Every single time I pull up my car and drive in, I always say this to him, I literally feel like I'm in the Too Fast and Too Furious movie, or Tokyo Drift, whatever the movies were. It's just all Evos around me. And if there's not an Evo, there's a you know, VR4 or whatever. Like there's just all Mitsubishi cars, predominantly all of them Evos. I give my keys to this guy. Man, I know all he does is Evos. I have confidence and I'm like, this is the specialist. He's a specialist. So he's gotten respect for being a specialist. And this guy over here who does everything really, really good, it's something in our mind to think that Mike is going to do a better job with the Evo than the guy who does all of the cars really good. So once again, it's another example of why I feel like you're better off becoming a specialist. Your name will become more known. You will basically become that lift guy, the deadlift guy, the squat guy, whatever, the hand gripper guy, the bicep guy, the tricep guy, you know, the vertical jump guy, whatever the case might be. You can pick anything, but just become a master at something. Like I'm looking at a chair right now, like the guy who makes the best chairs. He might not make the really good table, but he makes the best chairs. Anyway, I think you guys get the point. I feel like that's where I want to take my training next. I feel like finally I've kind of resolved this anxiety about the deadlift, you know, falling behind the squat and whatever, blah, 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 blah. I just want to go, you know, head over heels with my freaking squatting and just forget everything else. And I think I'm even thinking about like shaving off some of this stuff I'm doing with the pull-ups and the calisthenics and whatever. I just want to become really good squats. That's my number one thing, and that should be the motto of my training. Every time I open the shed door, I should think, we're here to squat. This is what is going to make our name. Anyway, let me get this 100 kilo squat, and then I can get in the house and get warm. All right, we're 31 minutes in. Let me know what you guys think about this topic. I think it's a really cool topic. I want to know where you guys stand. I've got a lot of guys on my YouTube account who are subscribed to me who have various different skills. Some of you guys are really good deadlifters, not so good squatters. Some of you guys are just busting out bench press like it's nothing. Tell me what you guys think about this. What's your approach? Do you want to become a specialist even further? Or do you want to level your shit out and become an all-rounder? Kind of like Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Is that your drive, or do you want to become, I am a master at this, and I'm slowly bringing all the other stuff eventually? Let me know, guys. Catch you tomorrow.